The consistent circle present this audiobook titled Inbox Zero, Clearing the Clutter to Cultivate Your Best Self. Narrator, Divine Echo. Introduction, The Unseen Blueprint. Your inbox is not just a repository of messages. It is the architectural blueprint of your attention, rendered in unread bold type. What you allow to remain there, unanswered, is a direct reflection of what you allow to remain undeveloped within yourself. Adapted from James Clear. This is not a book about email management. To reduce its premise to a series of tactical tips for achieving a pristine digital dashboard would be to miss its profound, transformative core entirely. While the phrase inbox zero has been championed as a pinnacle of modern productivity, a state where the relentless stream of demands is tamed into a serene, hollow zero, its true power lies far beyond the screen. It serves as a potent, living metaphor for the ultimate and most enduring project you will ever undertake, the conscious, deliberate development of the self. Consider for a moment the visceral sensation of an overflowing inbox. It is not merely a visual nuisance. It is a source of ambient, low-grade anxiety. It hums in the background of your consciousness, a chaotic chorus of other people's agendas, half-finished conversations, forgotten promises, and deferred decisions. Each unread subject line is a tiny hook in your mental fabric, pulling your attention toward a past you haven't processed and a future you haven't organized. This digital clutter is the external, tangible manifestation of a far more significant internal reality. For what is our mind, if not the original, organic inbox? It is where thoughts arrive unbidden, where emotions ping for attention, where memories are archived, and where ambitions often languish in a draft folder, never sent into the world as action. This book is an expository journey that bridges this crucial gap. We will explore how the disciplined practice of clearing external clutter is, in fact, a masterclass in cultivating internal clarity. The very principles required to decisively process a message to delete with finality, delegate with trust, defer with intention, or do with focus, are the same muscles needed to navigate life. Deleting an irrelevant email trains the same psychological resilience required to discard a limiting belief. Delegating a task strengthens the same trust in others and focus on personal genius that fuels effective leadership. The act of choosing what to do now amidst a sea of possibilities is the fundamental exercise of prioritization that defines a life of purpose versus one of mere reactivity. Thus, Inbox Zero is reframed. It is no longer a destination but a philosophy. It is the practice of creating emptiness not as an end, but as the essential, fertile ground from which intentional action grows. By mastering the flow of information to us, we learn to master the flow of energy within us. We move from being passive recipients, battered by every incoming demand, to becoming active curators and decisive architects of our own experience. Prepare to see your inbox, that mundane tool of daily communication, as a training ground, a mirror, and ultimately, a blueprint for building a life of unparalleled focus, purpose, and growth. The journey to zero begins with a single, conscious decision. Chapter 1. The Chaos of the Unchecked Inbox, the Unmanaged Self. The price of inaction is far greater than the cost of making a mistake. One is the chaos of 1,000 neglected rooms. The other is the wisdom found in cleaning a single one. Meister Eckhart, Adapted. We begin not with a solution, but with a stark, unflinching diagnosis of the modern condition. To understand the liberating power of zero, we must first comprehend the profound weight of the unchecked. An overflowing inbox is our era's most ubiquitous and telling symptom. It is the digital age's equivalent of a desk buried under unopened mail, a hallway clogged with unclaimed boxes, a room where you can no longer see the floor. Yet, because it exists in the ethereal realm of pixels and cloud storage, we often dismiss its psychological gravity. We tell ourselves, it's just email, or I'll get to it later, not realizing that this digital clutter has become the physical architecture of our cognitive and emotional overwhelm. The sensation is universal. You open your email client and a number stares back, 127, 348, 1002. Your pulse quickens slightly. A low hum of anxiety, a whisper of guilt, vibrates in your chest. You scan the list. A request from your boss marked urgent from 3 days ago. A newsletter you subscribed to in a moment of optimism but now feels like homework. A reminder for a bill, a passive-aggressive note from a colleague. An invitation to an event you have no interest in attending. And buried somewhere, a heartfelt note from a friend you've been meaning to properly answer for weeks. Each subject line is not just text. It is a micro-promise, a micro-obligation, a micro-decision deferred. It represents a fragment of your attention, a slice of your cognitive bandwidth, already claimed, already owed. This is the chaos of the unchecked inbox. But to label it merely chaos is to undersell its sophisticated tyranny. It is a system of perfectly engineered distraction. It operates on several corrosive levels simultaneously, each mirroring a form of internal disarray. First, it is a monument to procrastination. Every unread email is a decision postponed. Should I answer this? Can I ignore it? What do they want from me? The mental energy expended in avoiding the email, in skimming past it, in feeling a twinge of guilt, in promising yourself you'll handle it when you have more time, often surpasses the energy required to simply process it. This creates a debilitating cycle. The pile grows, making the task seem more monumental, which fuels further avoidance. We become like Sisyphus, but instead of pushing a boulder up a hill, we are perpetually adding stones to our own backpack, wondering why the journey feels so arduous. This external procrastination is a direct reflection of the internal procrastination that stalls self-development. The workout postponed, the difficult conversation avoided, the skill left unlearned, the dream perpetually filed under someday. Second, it is a thief of presence. Your attention is the most valuable currency you possess. An unchecked inbox is a mechanism that constantly auctions it off to the highest bidder, which is usually the most recent, most shrill, or most anxiety-inducing message. The ping of a new email is a neurological hijack. It pulls you out of deep work, out of a meaningful conversation, out of a moment of quiet reflection. You are never fully here, because a part of you is always mentally there, in that digital waiting room of unresolved business. Your focus becomes fragmented, your thinking shallow. You live in a state of continuous partial attention, where you are vaguely aware of everything but deeply engaged with nothing. This fractured presence is the enemy of mastery, of creativity, of genuine connection. How can you write a novel, solve a complex problem, or be fully available to a loved one when your mind is a browser with 127 tabs open, all running in the background? Third, it is a repository of other people's priorities. By its very nature, your inbox is a conduit for the agendas of others. It is where their requests, their needs, their crises, and their promotions land. When you leave it unchecked, you are implicitly allowing those external agendas to colonize your mental landscape and dictate your time. Your day becomes a reactive scramble to put out the loudest fires in someone else's yard, leaving no energy to tend to the quiet, essential garden of your own goals and well-being. You are living a life of responsiveness, not responsibility, reacting to the world's demands rather than consciously acting on your own values. The unmanaged inbox ensures you are perpetually playing defense in the game of your own life. Fourth, and most insidiously, it is a source of chronic, low-grade stress. Researchers have coined the term email apnea for the unconscious breath-holding that occurs when people tackle their inbox. This is not a neutral activity. The constant context switching, the fear of missing something critical, the guilt of unanswered messages, and the sheer cognitive load of managing the chaos trigger a subtle but persistent stress response. Cortisol levels flutter. The brain's amygdala, the threat detection center, remains in a state of low-grade alarm, interpreting the pile of messages not as paper, but as potential predators. This ambient stress is the fertile ground for anxiety, irritability, and burnout. It depletes the very resilience we need to engage in the challenging, rewarding work of self-development. Now, let us turn the lens inward. This external chaos is not an isolated phenomenon. It is a perfect metaphor for the unmanaged self. Imagine your mind as the original, the prototype, the most complex inbox ever conceived. Into it streams a constant, relentless feed of data. Sensory perceptions, memories, emotions, ideas, criticisms, desires, and fears. Every waking moment is an influx of messages. What is our habitual, default relationship with this internal inbox? Too often, it is one of neglect and avoidance that mirrors our digital habits. We allow thoughts to pile up unprocessed. A hurtful comment from yesterday sits there, unread and festering. An anxiety about tomorrow's meeting pings for attention, and we simply mark it as unread, letting it loom. A creative idea arrives, a spark of inspiration, and we file it away in a mental to think about later folder that we never revisit. Passions, regrets, grudges, and aspirations all jostle for space in an unconscious, cluttered heap. This is the internal state of unread. It is the weight of unprocessed emotion, the sadness we haven't acknowledged, the anger we haven't expressed healthily, the joy we haven't fully savored. It is the backlog of unexamined beliefs, assumptions we inherited about success, worthiness, and capability that we've never opened up to scrutinize in the light of our own experience. It is the draft folder of unlived potential, the book unwritten, the connection unmade, the adventure not taken, all saved as drafts we are too afraid to send into the world. The psychological consequences are direct parallels to the digital chaos. Mental procrastination. We put off the hard work of introspection. I'll deal with that feeling later. I'll figure out my purpose when things calm down. This internal deferral creates a growing, shadowy backlog that weighs on our spirit. Theft of inner presence. With our inner space cluttered, we cannot be present with ourselves. We seek constant external noise, social media, television, busyness, to drown out the static of our own unprocessed inbox. We become strangers in our own minds. Living by others' scripts. When we don't consciously process our own values and desires, our internal priority emails, we default to living by the scripts given to us by society, family, or peers. Our life becomes a reply-all to external expectations, rather than a bold, original message authored by our authentic self. Chronic internal stress. This internal clutter, the rumination on the past, the anxiety about the future, the unresolved conflicts, is the primary source of psychological distress. It is the mind's equivalent of 1,000 browser tabs open, draining our emotional battery and leaving us feeling perpetually tired, scattered, and unfulfilled. The unchecked external inbox and the unmanaged self form a vicious, reinforcing cycle. The digital chaos scatters our focus and drains our energy, leaving us with no cognitive surplus for the demanding work of inner management. In turn, the inner chaos of unresolved emotions and unclear priorities makes us less effective, more reactive, and more prone to avoidance in our external world. We lack the clarity and calm to decisively process a simple email, because our internal processor is overwhelmed with its own unhandled tasks. This chapter is not meant to condemn, but to illuminate. It is a call to recognize that the overwhelm you feel when facing a crowded email screen is not a personal failing, but a universal signal. It is a flashing indicator light on the dashboard of your life, telling you that a system, both external and internal, is overloaded and requires attention. The frustration you feel with your inbox is, at its core, a profound frustration with a state of being, a life of reaction, clutter, and deferred decisions. The path to liberation, therefore, does not start with a new app or a clever hack. It starts with this realization. The quest for inbox zero is fundamentally the quest for self-zero. It is the desire to clear the decks, to create space, to move from the chaotic, anxious state of unread to the clear, potent state of processed and purposeful. It is the understanding that by learning to master the flow of information to us, we build the very skills required to master the flow of life within us. The chaos is not your destiny, it is your starting point. And the first step out of it is to see it for what it truly is. Not just a mess to be cleaned, but a mirror showing you where your power, your ability to choose, to decide, to act, has been surrendered. Reclaiming that power begins with a single, simple, radical act, facing the inbox, and in doing so, beginning to face yourself. Chapter 2. The Philosophy of Zero. Emptiness as Potential. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. Tao Te Ching. Having confronted the oppressive weight of the unchecked inbox, that chaotic, demanding monument to our procrastination and fractured attention, we stand at a critical juncture. The natural impulse is to begin frantically deleting, replying, and archiving, to wage war on the clutter. But to do so would be to miss the deeper truth, the foundational philosophy that transforms a mundane organizational tactic into a profound life practice. Before we learn the how, we must first understand the why. We must deconstruct our cultural fear of emptiness and rediscover the boundless potential that resides in the state of zero. Zero is a misunderstood number. In a world obsessed with accumulation, more wealth, more followers, more achievements, more possessions, zero is often seen as a symbol of lack, of failure, of nothingness. An empty inbox can feel sterile, even anxious, as if our worth is tied to the volume of demands upon us. If my inbox is at zero, the subconscious whispers, am I still needed? Am I relevant? We have conflated busyness with importance and clutter with a life fully lived. This chapter seeks to dismantle that fallacy and reintroduce zero not as an end, but as the most potent of beginnings. Let us reframe the concept. Consider the most powerful and creative spaces in human endeavor. The blank canvas in the painter's studio does not intimidate the master, it thrills her. It is pure possibility. The silent meditation hall before the session begins is not empty. It is saturated with readiness, a container for peace. The cleared workbench of the inventor or the architect's pristine drafting table, these are not symbols of idleness, but of prepared potential. The pause between musical notes, the white space on a printed page, the deep breath before a speech, these zeros are not voids. They are essential elements of rhythm, clarity, and impact. Inbox zero, then, is the act of creating a blank canvas for your daily attention. It is the deliberate cultivation of a cleared space, digital, temporal, and mental, from which intentional action can emerge. The emptiness is not the goal, it is the prerequisite. You cannot paint a masterpiece on a canvas already covered in the random scribbles of other people's demands. You cannot build an elegant, functional structure on a site buried under the rubble of last year's projects. The clearing is the first and most sacred creative act. This philosophy finds resonance in wisdom traditions across millennia. In Taoism, the concept of wu-wei, effortless action, arises from a mind that is like still water, clear and unobstructed. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum and negative visualization, not to dwell on gloom, but to consciously imagine the loss of what they had, thereby creating a psychological zero point of gratitude and non-attachment that amplified their appreciation for the present. In Zen Buddhism, the idea of shoshin, or beginner's mind, praises an empty, open state, free from the habit of expert, ready to receive new lessons. Each of these traditions understands that clarity, wisdom, and effective action are born from a foundation of spaciousness, not fullness. Translated to our modern context, the philosophy of zero operates on three interconnected levels: the tactical, the psychological, and the existential. 1. The tactical zero, the engine of effective action. On a purely practical level, an empty inbox is a frictionless system. It is a trusted, neutral command center. When you achieve inbox zero, you have made a decisive commitment about every single item that has entered your sphere. It has been deleted, delegated, deferred, or done. There is no psychic drag from unfinished loops. This creates a profound tactical advantage. Your focus is no longer diluted by a background process of nagging obligations. Your brain's executive function, freed from the full-time job of managing clutter, can be directed entirely toward deep, meaningful work. Decision-making becomes faster and less draining because you have trained your decision muscle through the daily practice of processing the inbox. The state of zero is the state of a system operating at peak efficiency, where energy is directed toward forward motion, not maintenance of chaos. 2. The psychological zero, the calm at the center. This is where the philosophy deepens. The tactical act of clearing creates a psychological reality, a sense of control, competence, and calm. Completing the processing of your inbox delivers a small but significant victory. It is a closed loop. The brain craves closure, It is a primary driver of our psychology, a principle known as the Zeigarnik effect, where uncompleted tasks intrude on our thoughts. Each email processed is a loop closed, a weight lifted. Achieving inbox zero, even temporarily, is a mass closure event. It signals to your nervous system. The environment is under control. The threat's unanswered demands have been neutralized. This lowers the ambient stress we diagnosed in Chapter 1. The low-grade alarm from the amygdala quietens. The mental space that was once occupied by the anxiety of the unread is now available. It becomes a sanctuary for reflection, for strategic thinking, for creativity. This psychological zero is not emptiness. It is serenity. It is the mental white space that allows new connections to form, insights to surface, and resilience to replenish. 3. The existential zero, the point of origin. This is the most profound layer of the philosophy. The practice of regularly returning to a state of cleared in your external systems trains you to find the cleared state within yourself. It is the cultivation of what we might call the inner zero point, the quiet, still center of your consciousness that exists beneath the chatter of thoughts, the churn of emotions, and the noise of the world. Think of your identity not as a fixed, solid statue, but as a constantly updated inbox of self-concepts. I am a busy person. I am someone who is always behind. I am the one who handles everyone's problems. I am not good enough. These are like unread, sticky note emails pinned to your sense of self. The philosophy of zero invites you to regularly process this internal inbox, to question these narratives, to delete the limiting beliefs that no longer serve you. I am not a writer. To delegate the need for external validation to your own internal compass, to defer the final judgment on your capabilities, knowing you are always evolving, and to do the actions that align with your core values, not your inherited scripts. The inner zero point is your existential home base. It is the you that exists before the job title, after the failure, and during the quiet moment of dawn. It is the space of pure awareness and potential from which all conscious action can spring. When you operate from this zero point, you are no longer merely reacting to the latest email life sends you, a criticism, a setback, a temptation. You are responding from a place of choice, values, and intentionality. You are the author, not the inbox. Therefore, the journey to inbox zero is, in truth, a spiritual and existential drill. Each time you sit down to clear your digital inbox, you are performing a modern-day katana cleaning ritual. You are not just organizing tasks. You are practicing the art of creating space. You are reinforcing the neural pathways that favor choice over chaos, intention over reaction, and presence over panic. To fear zero is to fear your own potential. It is to prefer the familiar clutter of managed misery to the awesome, open field of unscripted possibility. The blank page is terrifying only if you doubt your ability to fill it with something worthy. The empty inbox is anxiety-inducing only if you derive your sense of purpose from being perpetually needed in the small, reactive ways that emails demand. Embrace zero as your ally. See the cleared space not as a vacuum to be filled, but as the highest form of preparation. It is the athlete's rested body before the race, the scholar's quiet mind before the breakthrough, the leader's calm before the decisive moment. It is the fertile void from which all creation, your best work, your deepest connections, your truest self, emerges. The promise of this philosophy is that by mastering the small, daily act of creating external zero, you will build the capacity to access the internal zero. And from that still point, you will find that you can respond to the entire world with a newfound sense of power, clarity, and grace. The emptiness, you will discover, was never empty at all. It was waiting for you. Chapter 3, the decision engine. Delete, delegate, defer, do. In the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you. It is the space where decisions are forged not from panic, but from principle. Deepak Chopra. We arrive now at the beating heart of the system, the practical engine that transforms the philosophical ideal of zero into a daily, achievable reality. The state of clutter, both in our inboxes and in our minds, persists for one primary reason: indecision. An item remains in limbo because we have not applied a final, binding verdict to it. It floats in a purgatory of maybe later, consuming psychic energy and physical space. The path to clarity, therefore, is not through better storage, but through better judgment. This chapter introduces and dissects the core decision-making matrix of Inbox 0, the 4, and only 4 possible fates for any item that demands your attention: delete, delegate, defer, do. This is not merely an email management tactic. It is a universal framework for exercising your sovereignty over life's constant inflow. Mastering this engine builds what we might call decision muscle. Like any muscle, it atrophies with disuse and strengthens with consistent, deliberate practice. Every email, every request, every thought that enters your sphere is an opportunity for a rep. The goal is to move from being a passive, overwhelmed recipient, a mailbox clogged with flyers, to becoming an active, discerning curator, a master sculptor choosing which block of marble warrants your chisel. Let us examine each action in turn, first as a digital protocol, and then as a profound metaphor for personal agency and self-development. Delete, the art of conscious neglect. The action, this is the most powerful, and for many, the most difficult verb. It means to permanently remove an item from your field of vision and concern. It applies to the promotional spam, the irrelevant CCs, the outdated meeting notes, the just following up on a thread you've already concluded. It requires the judgment to distinguish between noise and signal. The key question: does this require any action from me or contain information essential to my roles and goals? If the answer is a clear no, the key is pressed. It is gone. The metaphor and the muscle. To delete is the practice of letting go. It is the conscious, deliberate act of pruning your life's attention garden. In self-development, what are the items we need to delete? Delete limiting beliefs, those internal narratives. I'm not good with money. I'm too old to change. I don't deserve that. They are mental spam, corrosive scripts that arrived from past experiences or other people's opinions. You must recognize them as such and drag them to the trash. They serve no purpose but to slow your processor. Delete toxic inputs. The news sources that fuel only anxiety, the social media accounts that trigger envy, the friends whose conversations are drains of negativity and gossip. Unsubscribe, mute, limit exposure. You are the administrator of your mental environment. Delete unnecessary commitments. The volunteer role that drains you, the committee meeting that is all process and no progress, the hobby you maintain out of obligation, not joy. Saying no is the ultimate delete function for your calendar and your energy. Delete perfectionism, the draft that will never be perfect, the plan that must account for every contingency. Sometimes, you must delete the paralyzing need for flawless conditions and ship the work, flawed and human. The muscle built here is discernment. It is the courage to declare something irrelevant to your journey and to release it without guilt. It is understanding that a no to clutter is a yes to focus. Delegate, the leverage of trust. The action, this verb acknowledges that you are not the only, or even the best, person for every task. Delegating is assigning an item to someone else who has the capacity, skill, or responsibility to handle it. It requires clarity and instruction and the humility to let go of control. The key question: am I the sole person who can or should do this, or is there someone for whom this is a better fit? The metaphor and the muscle. To delegate is the practice of strategic empowerment. It is recognizing your unique zone of genius and operating within it, while trusting the ecosystem around you. Delegate to your future self wisely. This is a special form of delegation. You are not dumping a task, you are preparing it for a more capable version of you, the you that has had a full night's sleep, has done the research, or is in the right context. This requires clear handoff notes, to-dos, calendar blocks. Delegate tasks to free your strengths. At work and in life, what tasks drain you but energize someone else? Delegate them. Hire the bookkeeper, outsource the lawn care, ask a colleague with different skills to lead a part of the project. This is not laziness, it is intelligent resource allocation. Delegate worry and outcomes. This is the deepest level. You cannot control everything. The practice of delegation here means entrusting outcomes to a larger process, to the team, to the market, to the universe, to your own faith. Do your part with excellence, the do. then delegate the anxiety about the result. It is no longer your item to hold. Delegate validation. Stop trying to reply all to every opinion about your life. Delegate the job of judging your worth to your own internal compass, not to the inbox of public opinion. The muscle built here is trust and humility. It is the confidence to know your value does not come from doing everything yourself, but from orchestrating the right things done well. It is the humility to acknowledge you are part of a system, not the entire system. Defer, the power of intentional timing. The action, this is for items that are important and require your action, but not right now. Deferring is scheduling. It means removing the item from your immediate view and placing it firmly on your calendar or task list for a specific future time. The key is to get it out of your active decision space and into a trusted system. The key question: is this important for me to do, but is now the absolutely wrong time to do it? The metaphor and the muscle. To defer is the practice of strategic patience. It is the antidote to reactivity. It is the understanding that not every important thing is urgent, and that acting on impulse is often the enemy of acting with impact. Defer your reaction, the angry email, the provocative comment. Instead of firing off a reply in the heat of the moment, you defer the response. You schedule time to address it when your prefrontal cortex, not your amygdala, is in charge. This single habit can save careers and relationships. Defer major decisions, sleep on it. The big purchase, the career move, the heated conflict. Create a someday maybe list for your life's ideas and ambitions. Park them there without guilt. You are not saying no, you are saying not now, which is a form of profound respect for the decision's importance. Defer consumption. That 3-hour documentary, that 400-page book, that online course. Schedule time for deep learning instead of snacking on fragments. You defer the activity to create space for the focus it deserves. Defer gratification, the foundational skill for any long-term goal. You defer the dessert for the health, the spend for the savings, the distraction for the deep work. You are scheduling a greater reward for a future, more fulfilled self. The muscle built here is temporal intelligence. It is the wisdom to understand that time is a tool, and that placing an action in its optimal temporal context is a supreme act of effectiveness and self-respect. Do, the imperative of immediate action. The action, this is for items that are important, urgent, or nearly so, and will take less than 2 minutes to complete. The rule is simple. If it takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. Reply to the yes/no question, confirm the appointment, forward the document. The key is to prevent the accumulation of tiny tasks that collectively form a mountain of resistance. The key question: is this crucial, and can I dispose of it with a minimal, decisive action right now? The metaphor and the muscle. To do, in this context, is the practice of prompt execution. It is the discipline of closing loops, of maintaining momentum, of honoring the small commitments you make to yourself and others. Do the small, courageous thing. Send the short, kind check-in text. Make the 1-minute apology. Submit the small application. These micro-actions are the bricks of a meaningful life. Doing them immediately builds momentum and proves to yourself that you are a person of action. Do the daily rituals. Your morning routine, your evening reflection, your 5 minutes of meditation. These are the sub-2-minute emails you send to your future self every day, compounding into a life of discipline and clarity. Do the decision to decide. Often, the do is simply making the choice itself. I will delete this fear. I will delegate that task on Tuesday. I will defer this purchase until next month. The act of assigning a final verdict is the action. The muscle built here is velocity and integrity. It is the ability to translate intention into immediate, frictionless motion on small things, which trains the neural pathways for decisive action on big things. It builds self-trust. You become someone who does what they say they'll do, starting with yourself. This decision engine, delete, delegate, defer, do, is your operating system for a life of intention. It forces clarity. An item cannot linger in a fifth, nebulous category of I'll figure it out later. It must receive a verdict. This daily practice in your inbox is a microcosm of life management. You are constantly practicing how to triage the world's demands, your own impulses, and your deepest callings. The chaos of Chapter 1 is cured not by working harder, but by deciding smarter. The emptiness of Chapter 2 is created not by avoidance, but by this series of definitive, conscious choices. As you run every incoming message, be it an email, a thought, a request, or an opportunity, through this engine, you are doing far more than organizing a tool. You are sculpting your character. You are building the discernment to delete the trivial, the trust to delegate effectively, the wisdom to defer wisely, and the courage to do what matters now. You are becoming, in every sense, the decisive author of your own life's narrative. Chapter 4, Crafting Your Filters, Defining What Gets Through. Do not let the behavior of others destroy your inner peace. It is not what enters your mind, but what you allow to nest there that determines your destiny. Epictetus adapted. With a powerful decision engine now at our disposal, we have moved from being passive victims of chaos to active processors of it. We can delete, delegate, defer, and do with growing confidence. Yet a critical question remains. Why is there so much to process in the first place? To achieve a sustainable and serene state of inbox zero, we must move upstream. We must address the flow itself. If we only ever process the flood, we remain forever reactive, doomed to bail water from a sinking ship rather than patching the holes. This chapter is about patching the holes. It is about the proactive, creative work of crafting your filters, the conscious rules and boundaries that govern what is allowed to enter your attention sphere in the first place. Think of your mind, your schedule, and your digital spaces as a pristine, well-managed garden. The decision engine is your weeding and harvesting tool, but filters are the fence, the gate, and the selective soil you choose. They determine what seeds, ideas, requests, information are even permitted to land, and which are turned away at the border. An unfiltered life is an open field where any wind can scatter any seed, leading to a chaotic, uncontrollable thicket of demands. A filtered life is a cultivated ecosystem, designed for health, beauty, and purposeful yield. In the digital realm, filters are straightforward. Unsubscribe links, spam blockers, mute functions, notification settings, and email rules that automatically sort messages into folders. But these are mere metaphors for the far more vital psychological, social, and philosophical filters we must construct for a life of intentional self-development. Level 1, the informational filter, curating your mental diet. We live in the age of the fire hose. News, social media, podcasts, newsletters, opinions, and advertisements blast at us continuously. Each piece of information is a request for your attention, a tiny email to your brain. Most of it is, by design, alarmist, addictive, or trivial. Crafting this filter means asking, does this inform me or just inflame me? Does the news source provide nuanced understanding, or does it primarily trigger outrage and anxiety? The latter is informational spam. Unsubscribe. Does this expand my perspective, or just echo my biases? Seek out thinkers who challenge you constructively, not just voices that make you nod in comfortable agreement. Diversity of thought is a nutrient. An echo chamber is junk food. What is the opportunity cost of this consumption? The 45 minutes scrolling through reactive social media feeds is 45 minutes not spent reading a book that builds a skill, not spent in conversation that deepens a relationship, not spent in silence that nurtures an idea. Install app limiters on your time. This filter is about becoming your own librarian, not a passive patron of the algorithmic newsstand. You must be ruthless. The goal is not to be uninformed, but to be well-informed, on your terms, at your pace, aligned with your growth. Level 2, the social filter, governing your relational ecosystem. People are the most significant source of messages in our lives. Their requests, their energy, their opinions, their dramas all land in our relational inbox. Not all of it is meant for you. Not all of it is healthy for you. Crafting this filter means establishing the CC rule. Just because you can be included in a drama, a gossip chain, or a pointless meeting does not mean you should be. Learn to mentally, and sometimes literally, remove yourself from the thread. Your presence is a privilege. Not every conversation has earned it. The emotional mute button. You have the right to mute conversations that are toxic, cyclical, and draining. This doesn't always mean ending a relationship, though sometimes it does. It means changing your notification settings. You can choose not to engage in the complaint marathon, the competitive one-upmanship, or the chronic negativity. You are not a dumping ground for unresolved emotional spam. The VIP list. Conversely, identify the people whose messages get priority notification. The mentor whose advice you seek, the friend who challenges and supports you in equal measure, the family member who connects you to your core. Create psychological rules that flag their communications as important. Invest your best attention here. The gate of agreement. You do not have to accept every invitation, every request for your time, every demand on your empathy. Saying no is the ultimate social filter. It declares, "This does not align with my current priorities or capacity." It protects the sanctity of your yes. This filter builds the muscle of discernment in connection. It moves you from being a passive participant in every social dynamic to being the architect of your inner circle's quality and health. Level 3. The internal filter, mastering your psychic borders. This is the most advanced and crucial filter, for it governs the messages you send to yourself. Your own mind generates a relentless stream of thoughts, judgments, and narratives. Without a filter, this internal inbox is a mess of spam, fear-mongering, and outdated memos. Crafting this filter involves interrogating the sender. When a thought arises, "You're going to fail," "They don't like you," "It's too late," ask, "Who sent this?" Is this the authentic voice of your present, wise self? Or is it an old recording from a critical parent, a past failure, a societal script? If the sender is not credible, mark it as junk. Creating a "not now" folder for rumination. Worry and obsessive rehearsal are often just internal emails you keep rereading without taking action. The filter rule here is, if I am not willing to schedule a time to actively problem solve this, defer do, I am not allowed to ruminate on it endlessly. Move the thought to a designated worry period later in the day. Setting rules for self-talk. Establish a protocol for your internal language. Would you allow someone to speak to your best friend the way you speak to yourself? Craft a filter that flags harsh, absolutist self-criticism. "I always mess up," "I'm a fraud," and automatically reroutes it towards curiosity. "What can I learn from this?" "I'm struggling with this," which is human. Filtering for identity. We constantly receive internal messages about who we are. A filter here asks, does this belief about myself empower my growth or confine it? The belief, "I am a learner," lets in challenges as opportunities. The belief, "I am naturally disorganized," lets in chaos as inevitable. Install filters that catch and quarantine disempowering identity statements. The practice of proactive curation. Crafting filters is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing practice of proactive curation. It requires regular audits. The subscription audit. Quarterly, review the informational inputs in your life. Which newsletters do you actually read? Which social accounts leave you feeling inspired versus inadequate? Which news sources inform versus terrify? Unsubscribe, unfollow, mute. Be merciless in the defense of your mental peace. The relational audit. Reflect on your recent interactions. Which relationships consistently deposit energy and which consistently withdraw? You cannot always cut people out, but you can adjust your filters. How much time you give, what topics you engage in, what expectations you set. The internal rule audit. Sit in meditation or journaling and simply observe the traffic of your thoughts. What repetitive, unhelpful senders keep appearing? Write a new filter rule for them. When thought X about my worth arises, I will consciously recall evidence of my competence from document Y. This work of filtering is the essence of self-ownership. It is the declaration that you are not a public inbox with an open at address for the world to spam. You are a private sanctuary with a gate, a guard, and a very selective guest list. The power to filter is the power to define the very reality you inhabit, for your reality is largely constructed from the information and interactions you process. When your filters are well crafted, the volume hitting your decision engine drops dramatically. What remains is more likely to be relevant, meaningful, and aligned. Processing to zero becomes a lighter, quicker task. More importantly, the constant, draining background noise of the world fades. In its place emerges a quiet hum of intentionality. You begin to hear your own voice, your own intuition, your own true priorities with stunning clarity. You move from being a reactor to the world's stimuli, to being a curator of your own experience. And in that curatorial power lies the freedom to design not just an empty inbox, but a full and meaningful life, built intentionally, one filtered choice at a time. Chapter 5, The Daily Process, Rituals and the Compound Effect. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Will Durant, interpreting Aristotle. We now possess the philosophy of zero, the engine for decision, and the wisdom of filters. These are the grand structures, the blueprints and the machinery. But a blueprint alone does not build a house, and an engine left in the garage powers no journey. The vital bridge between aspiration and reality, between theory and a life transformed, is found in the small, repeated, often mundane daily process. This chapter argues that the true magic of Inbox Zero, and by extension of self-mastery, lies not in the occasional heroic purge, but in the quiet, relentless discipline of the ritual. It is in the compound effect of showing up, day after day, to clear the space, make the choices, and reinforce the identity of someone in command of their attention and their life. To see this process as a chore is to misunderstand its purpose. It is not a chore, it is a keystone ritual. A keystone ritual is a small, foundational habit that, when performed consistently, has a disproportionate positive impact on other areas of your life. It sets a tone, establishes order, and builds momentum. The daily practice of processing your inbox to zero is precisely that. It is a concentrated, tangible simulation of managing your entire life. For 10, 20, or 30 minutes a day, you practice the core skills of adulthood: triage, decisive action, completion, and the maintenance of order. The ripple effects of this micro-practice are profound. The anatomy of the daily process, a ritual in 3 acts. A ritual requires structure and reverence. It transforms a task into a ceremony of self-respect. Act 1, the sacred container, the when and where. The first step is to sanctify the time and space. This is not something you do whenever you get a minute. That is the language of chaos. You must schedule your Inbox Zero session with the same non-negotiable priority as a critical meeting. For many, this is the first thing in the workday, a command center session to clear the decks before the world's demands flood in. For others, it's a closing ritual at the end of the day, preparing a clean slate for tomorrow. The time matters less than the consistency. Create the environment. Close unnecessary browser tabs. Silence your phone, or better yet, place it in another room. If possible, use a dedicated device or a clean desktop for this session. This physical and digital preparation signals to your brain: what happens now is important. We are focusing. You are building a chapel for your attention. Act 2, the focused execution, the how. Enter the session with your decision engine primed. Open the inbox. Start at the top, or the oldest, and move down one message at a time. Apply the D's with ruthless focus. Delete with confidence. Don't just skim and skip. Make the judgment call. Delegate with clarity. If you delegate, do it completely. Send the email with clear instructions and then let it go. It is now off your plate. Defer with precision. If it goes on your calendar or task list, put it there immediately during the session. Don't just leave the email open as a reminder. The goal is to remove it from the inbox entirely. Do immediately if under 2 minutes. Reply, file, answer. The critical rule here is touch it once. Do not read a message, feel overwhelmed, and mark it as unread again. That is the cycle of procrastination. A decision must be made. This focused, linear processing is a form of meditation. It is training your mind to stay on a single point of focus, to resist the urge to jump to the shiny new email, to see a task through to completion. Each processed email is a completed cycle, a tiny victory for your will. Act 3, the completion and celebration, the why. When you hit the final message and see that glorious zero, pause. Do not just rush into the next thing, take a breath. Acknowledge the completed state. Feel the physical sensation of relief, of lightness, of control. This moment of acknowledgement is neurochemically crucial. It releases a small dose of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, which reinforces the behavior and wires you to seek this clear state again. It is the closing bell of the ritual. You have honored the commitment. You have defended the border. You have maintained order. The compound effect, from inbox to identity. This is where the daily process transcends email management and becomes the engine of self-development. The compound effect, a principle popularized by Darren Hardy, states that small, seemingly insignificant actions, repeated consistently over time, produce massive, life-altering results. The daily inbox zero ritual is a perfect vessel for this law. 1. The compound effect on skill. Every day you perform 20, 50, 100 micro-decision drills. You practice discernment, delete, trust, delegate, patience, defer, and execution, do. Over a week, that's 1,000 reps. Over a year, tens of thousands. This is not practice. This is mastery-level training. The neural pathways for decisive action become superhighways. What was once a laborious, draining process becomes fluid, almost automatic. This skill of rapid, clear triage bleeds into every domain. You start processing conversations, project choices, and personal opportunities with the same clarified efficiency. 2. The compound effect on psychology. Each completed session ends with a success, the achievement of zero. This daily success, however small, is a powerful antidote to the learned helplessness of chaos. It builds self-efficacy, the core belief that I can handle what comes at me. You prove to yourself daily that you are competent and in control. This foundational confidence then fuels larger challenges. You begin to approach a complex project not as an insurmountable mountain, but as a series of emails to be processed. Break it down, decide on each component, execute. The anxiety of the whole is dissolved by the proven process of handling the parts. 3. The compound effect on identity. This is the most transformative level. You are not just doing a ritual, you are, through repetition, becoming the ritual. Aristotle's wisdom holds, excellence is a habit, so is clarity, so is control, so is intentionality. After 30 days, you are no longer someone trying inbox zero. You are someone who maintains a clear inbox. After 90 days, that identity expands. You become a decisive person, a reliable executor, someone who finishes what they start. Over time, this core identity, forged in the daily furnace of your email client, solidifies. You start to see yourself as a curator, a commander, a conscious author of your life. The ritual has rewritten your self-narrative from "I am overwhelmed" to "I am in control." Beyond the inbox, rituals for a zero-based life. The ultimate goal is to generalize the process. The inbox is merely the training ground. The true aim is to design daily processes for every key area of your life, creating a series of keystone rituals that compound into an extraordinary existence. The mental inbox zero, a daily 10-minute meditation or journaling session. Sit, let thoughts arise and process them. Acknowledge and release, delete, note for later reflection, defer, identify an actionable insight, do. The physical inbox zero, a nightly 5-minute reset of your living space. Wash the dish, hang the coat, file the paper. Process the physical clutter with the same Ds, ending the day with a serene, ordered environment. The relational inbox zero, a weekly review. Are there any unanswered messages, unexpressed gratitudes, or unresolved tensions? Schedule a call, defer, send a quick text, do, or consciously let go of a minor slight, delete. The priority inbox zero, a morning planning session. Review your top 3 priorities for the day, your do list. Delegate what you can. Delete non-essential tasks that have crept in. Defer lower priority items to another day. Each of these rituals is a fractal of the core practice. Each ends with a moment of cleared space, of zero. Each compounds its specific skill while reinforcing the overarching identity of a person who designs their days with intention. The promise of this chapter is that the power is not in a single, life-altering decision, but in the humble, daily decision to show up for your ritual. The mountain is moved not by a single heave, but by the consistent carrying away of small stones. By committing to the daily process, you are not just managing messages. You are engaging in the quiet, persistent alchemy of turning discipline into skill, skill into confidence, and confidence into an unshakable identity. You are building, one cleared inbox at a time, the life of clarity and purpose you were meant to lead. Chapter 6, The Inbox of the Mind, Managing Thoughts and Emotions. You are the sky, everything else is just the weather. Pema Chodron. Our expedition has taken us far. We have cleared the external digital landscape, erected filters, and forged the daily discipline to maintain that hard-won clarity. Yet, a profound truth awaits. If the mind remains a tempest, the clearest inbox in the world is but a lifeboat on a raging sea. We have mastered the peripheral, but now we must turn our most powerful lens inward. This chapter applies the entire Inbox Zero framework to its most critical domain, the ceaseless, often chaotic stream of thoughts and emotions that constitute our inner life. Welcome to the Inbox of the Mind, the original, always-on, deeply personal server where the most important messages of your life are sent, and where clutter carries the highest cost. Imagine your consciousness as this ultimate inbox. Every waking moment, it receives deliveries. Thoughts, you should be working. Remember to call mom. What if I fail? That was embarrassing. Emotions, a ping of anxiety about a meeting. A wave of nostalgia triggered by a song. A simmering frustration from a traffic jam. A flash of joy from a memory. Sensations, tension in the shoulders, the gnaw of hunger, the ache of tiredness. Memories and imagined futures. The replay of an argument, the fantasy of a triumph. Unprocessed, these elements behave exactly like unread emails. They pile up. They buzz for attention. They trigger stress responses. They distract us from the present moment. The Zygarnik effect that haunted our digital inbox, the brain's tendency to cling to unfinished tasks, applies with even greater force to unfinished emotional business. An unresolved hurt is the ultimate unread notification, draining battery life in the background. The goal of Mental Inbox Zero is not to empty the mind of all thought. That is impossible and undesirable. The goal is to become the conscious, adept processor of your inner content, moving from a state of being identified with the weather of your thoughts and feelings, to being the spacious sky that holds it all. We achieve this by applying our now familiar verbs: delete, delegate, defer, do, not to emails, but to the very fabric of our subjective experience. Delete, the art of mental letting go. The action applied inwardly. This is the practice of non-engagement and release. It is seeing a thought or emotion appear, recognizing it as mental spam or unhelpful noise, and consciously choosing not to open it, not to feed it with your attention, and allowing it to pass on by. Delete rumination, the replayed conversation, the obsessive what-if scenario. Recognize, this is a thought loop. It is not problem-solving, it is mental self-flagellation. Label it, there's rumination, and deliberately turn your attention to the sensory present, the feel of your breath, the sounds around you. You are dragging the recursive thought to the trash. Delete judgmental noise, the stream of petty criticisms of yourself, of others, of the situation. This traffic is stupid. I'm so lazy. These are unhelpful commentaries that add no value. Acknowledge their presence, then hit delete. They are irrelevant to the task of living well. Delete catastrophizing, the worst-case scenario email your anxiety sends you. If this presentation goes badly, I'll lose my job, then my house. See it for what it is. A piece of speculative fiction generated by a frightened part of your brain. You do not have to open and read it. Mark it as spam and let it go. The muscle-built, cognitive diffusion. You learn to see thoughts as thoughts, not as absolute truths or commands. You create space between the thought and your identity. You are not your anxiety, you are experiencing anxiety. This space is where your freedom lies. Delegate, entrusting what is not yours to carry. The action applied inwardly. This is the profound act of surrendering control and sharing the load. It is recognizing which thoughts and emotions are not yours to solve, which burdens are not yours to bear alone. Delegate worry to the future. You cannot solve tomorrow's problem with today's mind in today's context. When a future-based anxiety arises, consciously delegate it. Say, I delegate this concern to my future self, who will be on the scene, with the resources and information needed to handle it. Then, let it go from your present moment inbox. Delegate outcomes to the process. You control your effort, your preparation, your integrity. You do not control the result, the market's reaction, or another person's response. Delegate the anxiety about the outcome. Pour your energy into the do, the action, then mentally hand the result over to the universe, to fate, to your faith, or simply to the natural unfolding of events. Delegate the need for certainty. The mind craves a clear, predictable inbox. Life is messy. Delegate the impossible job of knowing how it will all turn out. Trust in your ability to process whatever arrives, rather than needing to pre-approve all deliveries. Delegate to a higher self-wisdom. In moments of confusion, you can consciously delegate the search for an answer. I delegate this dilemma to my intuition, my subconscious, my higher wisdom. I will listen for the answer when it emerges. This is a form of productive deferral, but with an element of trust in a part of yourself beyond the frantic, chattering mind. The muscle built, surrender and trust. You develop the strength to hold things lightly, to participate fully without clinging to specific results. This relieves immense psychological burden and fosters resilience. Defer, the wisdom of timed engagement. The action applied inwardly. This is scheduled contemplation, not avoidance. It is acknowledging that a thought or feeling is important and deserves focused attention, but that right now is not the right time to give it. The worry appointment. Instead of letting anxiety hijack your day, schedule it. I see you, anxiety about the finances. I have an appointment with you at 4:30 p.m. today for 15 minutes of focused problem solving. Until then, you are deferred. This contains the emotion, gives it a place, and frees up the rest of your day. Defer deep processing. A major life decision, a creative problem, a complex emotional hurt. These are not 2-minute mental tasks. To try and solve them amidst the noise of the day is to do them a disservice. Schedule a dedicated, quiet time for this deep work of the soul. Write it in your calendar. Saturday morning, 8 a.m., process the career decision. Defer emotional reactions, the pause. This is the master skill. When a sharp emotion hits, anger, hurt, defensiveness, instead of hitting, reply all with a reactive outburst, you hit defer. You create a pause. I feel a strong reaction. I will defer my response until I am calm and can speak from my values, not my triggers. This simple act can save relationships and preserve your integrity. The muscle built, emotional regulation and strategic patience. You learn that you are not at the mercy of every immediate impulse. You gain the power to choose your battleground and your timing, engaging from a place of strength, not reactivity. Do, the courage of inner action. The action applied inwardly. This is for the thoughts and emotions that require an immediate, internal reply. An action you can take in the present moment to resolve, honor, or integrate them. Do the acknowledgement. A feeling of grief arises. The do is to simply say internally, this is grief, I feel it. Numbing it is a complete action that honors the emotion without being consumed by it. Do the mini release, a thought of tension in your body. The do is to take 3 deep, conscious breaths, releasing the tension on the exhale. A 2-minute mental action that closes the loop. Do the gratitude reply. A thought of lack or complaint pops up. The immediate do is to counter it with a specific gratitude. I'm stressed about work, right arrow. I am grateful I have a job that challenges me and a team to share the load with. You are replying to negativity with a message of appreciation. Do the commitment. A thought of a neglected value appears. I haven't been creative. The do is to make a micro-commitment. I will write 1 sentence in my journal tonight. You close the loop with the smallest viable action. The muscle built, present moment agency and integration. You prove to yourself that you can actively engage with and shape your inner world, not just be passive to it. You build self-trust by honoring your inner signals with small, consistent actions. Achieving mental inbox zero is a state of inner cleared space. It is not a void, but a calm, open awareness. From this space, you can observe the contents of your mind, the thoughts, the emotions, the memories as they arrive. You can apply your Ds with compassion and clarity. You are no longer the inbox, flooded and overwhelmed. You are the conscious user, sitting at the terminal, processing each item with intention. This practice is the pinnacle of self-development because it addresses the source of all experience. When your mental inbox is cluttered, no amount of external organization can bring lasting peace. When it is processed, even a chaotic external world can be met with equanimity and purpose. You carry your 0 point within you. It becomes the unshakable foundation from which you engage with everything. Your cleared email, your work, your relationships, your dreams. You have learned to manage the world within, and in doing so, you have become truly ready to master the world without. Chapter 7. Living at Zero. Designing a life of intentional action. The most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves, is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. Pema Chodron. We have journeyed from the storm of chaos, through the philosophy of emptiness, the mechanics of decision, the architecture of filters, the discipline of ritual, and finally, into the very heart of our own consciousness. We have learned to process not just emails, but our thoughts and emotions. We stand now at the summit, looking not at a destination, but at a new way of being. This final chapter is about integration, synthesis, and projection. It is about what happens when the practice of inbox zero ceases to be a practice and becomes a lens, a fundamental operating system through which you perceive and construct your entire life. This is about living at zero. Living at zero is not a state of perpetual emptiness or passive minimalism. It is a state of dynamic equilibrium. It is the condition of your life's various systems, digital, physical, mental, relational, professional, when they are consistently processed, clarified, and aligned with your core intentions. The zero here is not a count of items, but a measure of friction. It is the experience of moving through your days with minimal drag from unresolved clutter, unprocessed emotions, or misaligned commitments. Your energy flows toward creation, not constant maintenance. To live at zero is to become the conscious architect of your existence. You are no longer merely tidying rooms in a house built by accident. You are holding the blueprint, choosing the materials, and approving every addition. This chapter outlines the key domains of life where you can apply this architectural principle, moving from a reactive existence to a consciously designed one. Domain 1. The life dashboard, from fragmented apps to an integrated system. Think of your life as a dashboard. Most people's dashboards are a chaotic array of blinking warning lights, unread gauges, and sticky notes obscuring critical instruments. Living at zero means designing a clean, integrated, and functional dashboard where you can see everything that matters at a glance, and where every indicator has been intentionally placed. The financial inbox. This is your fiscal clarity. It means having a system where every dollar is processed, assigned a job due, invested for the future, defer, given away, delegate, or deemed unnecessary spending, delete. It involves regular processing sessions, budget reviews to reach a state of financial zero. Not having no money, but having no unaccounted for money, no nagging debt warnings, unread emails, and no anxiety about your financial picture because you have looked at it, decided on it, and filed it. The health inbox. This is your physical and energetic clarity. Your body sends constant emails, hunger, fatigue, pain, vitality. Living at zero means processing these signals with respect. You delete habits that drain you, junk food, sleep deprivation. You delegate to experts when needed, doctors, trainers. You defer indulgences strategically, scheduling treats. You do the immediate maintenance, drink water, take the walk, go to bed. Your health dashboard shows clear metrics you've chosen to track, not a backlog of ignored symptoms. The relational inbox. These are the connections that form your social ecosystem. A zero state here means no unresolved tensions, unread conflict, no neglected affirmations, unsent gratitude, and no one-sided relationships cluttering your emotional space. It means having the courage to delete toxic connections, to delegate certain needs to different friends appropriately, to defer conversations until a good time, and to do the small, kind actions that maintain warmth. Your relational dashboard shows active, healthy connections, not a pile of lapsed acquaintances or festering resentrances. Domain 2, the portfolio of purpose, allocating your energy shares. Your time and attention are your most finite capital. Living at zero means you move from being a day laborer for other people's priorities to being a shrewd investor of your own energy. You create a portfolio of purpose. Core holdings, your do list. These are the non-negotiable investments that align with your deepest values and long-term vision, your family, your key health practices, your most meaningful work. They get the bulk of your capital and protected time. They are the emails you always answer immediately. Growth investments, your deferred do list. These are skills you are developing, projects with future payoff, and exploratory learning. You schedule time for them, defer, and execute diligently do. They are the important but not urgent emails you move to your task list with a concrete deadline. Strategic alliances, your delegate list. These are areas where you leverage others' strengths. You invest by building a great team, outsourcing tasks outside your genius, and trusting collaborators. You delegate not to dump work, but to amplify impact. Divestments, your delete list. These are the energy sinks, the commitments, worries, media diets, and habits that yield no return for your life's mission. You consciously and ruthlessly divest. You sell these shares to buy more in your core holdings. Your portfolio is balanced, reviewed regularly, and every investment, action is intentional. There is no wasted, idle energy draining in the background on trivialities. Domain 3, the rhythm of review, the meta process. Living at zero is not a set it and forget it state. It is maintained by a cadence of reviews, a meta process that ensures your systems serve your evolving self. This is the practice of processing your life's inbox at higher altitudes. Daily review, the tactical zero. Your email, your task list, your quick mental scan. This maintains operational clarity. Weekly review, the strategic zero. This is the cornerstone habit. A 60-90 minute block to process all open loops. Review your calendar past and future. Empty your physical and digital notes. Assess your projects, and realign your upcoming week with your portfolio. This is where you ensure no mental or logistical email has slipped through the cracks of the daily grind. It is the weekly reset that guarantees you are living by design, not default. Quarterly/annual review, the existential zero. This is where you step back completely. You look at your life dashboard and your portfolio of purpose. Are your core holdings still core? Have your growth investments paid off? What needs to be divested? You ask the big, brave questions. Am I living the life I want? Is my daily reality aligned with my stated values? This review is about hitting the reset button on your own blueprint, ensuring that the person you are becoming is still the one doing the designing. The ultimate reward, agency as identity. When you live at zero across these domains, a profound shift occurs in your identity. You are no longer the victim of circumstance, right arrow, you become the architect of context. The reactive responder, you become the proactive curator. The perpetually busy right arrow, you become the strategically focused. The clutter collector, right arrow, you become the space creator. This identity is the ultimate reward. The anxiety that once pulsed from an unread email is replaced by a deep-seated confidence that you can handle what comes. The overwhelm that stemmed from a crowded schedule is replaced by the serene authority of a CEO running a company, your life, with clear priorities. The fear of missing out evaporates because you know with certainty what you are saying yes to, which makes every no a statement of purpose. Living at zero means that your default state is clarity, not chaos. It means that when the inevitable storms of life arrive, the crisis, the loss, the unexpected opportunity, you do not crumble. Your systems hold. Your mental inbox has space to process the new, shocking email. Your dashboard shows you what's stable. Your portfolio tells you what resources you have. You meet the storm not from a cluttered, flooded basement, but from the clear-eyed command of a well-built bridge. This is the promise of the entire journey. It began with a simple, almost trivial desire to see an empty email inbox. But that desire was a whisper of a deeper longing, for peace, for control, for meaning, for a life lived on purpose. You have learned that the path to that life is not through a single grand gesture, but through the humble, daily, disciplined application of a simple framework. Process what arrives. Decide with courage. Filter with wisdom. Create space. From that space, design everything. Your inbox is now at 0. Your life is now your own. Go and build something magnificent with all that clear, beautiful space.